The wedding hall was filled with whispers, not music. Ariana Williams stood frozen at the center of the grand event hall, her heart pounding louder than the murmurs spreading like wildfire. Her white engagement gown clung to her trembling frame as the large LED screen above the stage flickered. Then it happened. A shaky video played, grainy but unmistakable. Her fiancé, Michael Amadi, half naked, tangled in sheets with Jessica, her cousin, the same Jessica who had helped Ariana pick her engagement dress. The same Jessica who had wept beside her just yesterday, saying she was so happy for her. The camera angle shifted and Jessica laughed, mocking Ariana by name. The hall erupted. Gasps, phones recording, cameras flashing. Her mother's wine glass shattered against the floor. Ariana couldn't breathe. She stood before 1,000 eyes. Business partners, family elders, even the press, watching her pride fall apart in real time. Michael didn't even look ashamed. He straightened his collar and whispered, "We should talk outside." Ariana's eyes burned. Her world had collapsed in 10 seconds. Her name, her honor, her dignity, all dragged into the mud. Instead of crying, she did something no one expected. She walked to the mic. Her voice shook but held. "You all saw the truth. I will not marry a liar and a traitor. This engagement is over. And as for you, Jessica, you may have taken the man, but I will take back everything else." And with that, she walked away from the man. The shame, the betrayal, the silence in Ariana's room that night felt heavier than bricks. She sat alone on the edge of her childhood bed, still dressed in the now creased engagement gown. The once beautiful lace neckline now scratched against her skin like thorns. Her mother, Emily, paced the room like a ghost, muttering, sighing, wringing her hands, stopping only to glare at Ariana with a look that screamed, "How could you bring this shame upon us?" Ariana hadn't spoken a word since they left the hall. She had no strength to explain. What was there to explain anyway? That the man she had loved, trusted, had betrayed her in front of the entire community? That the very sister she had once defended was the one who stabbed her from behind? She had no tears left, just silence and pain. Suddenly the door flung open. Her father, Chief Thomas Williams, stepped in, his face like stone. His voice was calm, but there was thunder behind it. "You have 1 week," he said coldly. "Find a man, marry him, or leave this house and forget your inheritance." Ariana blinked slowly, unsure if she heard correctly. But he had already turned and walked out. Her mother followed without a word. 1 week, to erase a scandal that had already burned through the city like dry season fire. She lay down on her side, facing the wall. The shame wouldn't let her sleep. That video, that cursed video, still played in her mind on repeat. Jason, half naked, tangled up with Jessica, her own stepsister, laughing at Ariana's naivety. She had given up everything for Jason, her pride, her heart, her plans. And now, she had nothing but disgrace. Morning came with no peace. Ariana stepped outside for the first time since the engagement was shattered. Her once rosy cheeks had dulled. Neighbors stared. Some looked away. Others whispered and smirked as she walked past them. It was as if shame had been tattooed on her forehead. As she passed the small community market on her way to nowhere in particular, she overheard 2 women gossiping at a stall. Now, oh! Did you see how her father looked at her during the engagement scandal? She should disappear from town for a while. That kind of disgrace, it sticks. Ariana kept walking, faster, but the tears came anyway. By afternoon, she found herself in an unfamiliar neighborhood. She had walked so far, she didn't know how to return. She sat on a bench outside a quiet church, covering her face with both hands, trying to disappear into the shadows. That's when she heard a voice. "Excuse me, are you okay?" She looked up. A man stood before her. Tall, plain brown shirt, calm eyes. He wasn't handsome in a loud way, but something about him felt solid, safe. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her eyes betrayed her. He didn't press further. Instead, he sat a little distance from her, silent, respectful. "You don't look fine," he said quietly after a moment. She turned to him, her face streaked with tears. "I was supposed to get married yesterday," she said flatly. "Instead, I was humiliated, abandoned, and now I have 1 week to find another man to marry or be thrown out of my home like a stray dog." The man didn't flinch. He looked at her with quiet understanding. "Then marry me." Ariana blinked. Excuse me? You said you need a husband to restore your honor. I need a wife to fulfill my mother's dying wish. I don't have time to search for love. If you agree, we can help each other. Ariana laughed bitterly. This had to be madness. You don't even know me. That's true, but I know what it's like to be judged. I've lived in shame too. People see my cane and think I'm worthless. Ariana noticed it now, the walking stick beside him. She had been so wrapped in pain she hadn't seen it. What's your name? She asked slowly. David. David Ease. She stared at him, this stranger who somehow made more sense than her entire family ever had. What do you do? I run a small logistics business in the city. It's enough for now. And, are you really serious? If you are. They sat in silence. Birds chirped above them. The sun dipped low behind the church. Ariana felt the ground beneath her shift. She didn't know this man, but somehow, in this moment, he was her only escape from disgrace. Fine, she said at last. Let's get married. That night, Ariana returned home just before dinner. Where have you been? Her mother barked. I found someone, Ariana said softly. Everyone paused. Who? Chief Thomas asked. His name is David Ease. We'll sign the papers this weekend. Is it? Her father repeated with disgust. Is he from a known family? No. Wealthy? Not really. So, you want to replace Jason with a pauper? Ariana's face hardened. He may not have your approval, but he has what I need right now. Dignity. Chief Thomas scoffed and stormed off. Her mother simply muttered, This girl will bring us to shame again, and followed. But Ariana didn't care. For the first time in days, she felt a strange kind of peace. She was taking control, even if it meant marrying a stranger. The city registry office smelled of sweat and stale ink. The fan above buzzed lazily as if bored with its own existence. Ariana stood beside David in a cream blouse and plain skirt. She had never imagined her wedding day like this. No music, no guests, no mother smiling proudly from the crowd. Just two signatures, one gold ring, and a woman in a tight suit stamping forms without looking up. Next! The registry officer's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. She looked up. It was her turn to say, I do. David turned to her. His shirt was neatly ironed, his shoes worn but polished. He looked calm, unbothered by the absence of fanfare. Ariana stared at him, still wondering what kind of man volunteers to marry a stranger. You may now sign, the officer said, handing over the pen. With a shaky breath, Ariana signed her name on the certificate. David followed. It was done. Ariana Williams was now Ariana Ease, wife to a man she barely knew. Back at the estate, the news hit like thunder. Her stepmother, Felicia, nearly dropped her wine glass. You what? I married David Ease, Ariana repeated calmly. I'm now Mrs. Ease. Her father's laugh was bitter. So this is your solution? You couldn't bring back Jason, so you dragged home a beggar? He is not a beggar, Ariana said, her voice firm. And he treated me with more respect in 5 minutes than Jason ever did in 5 years. Chief Thomas slammed his walking stick on the marble floor. You're no longer my daughter. The words sliced through her like a knife. Then I'll leave your house by morning, she said, holding back tears. But not your name. She turned to leave. Her mother followed her outside, closing the door behind them. Ariana, she whispered, this marriage, are you sure? Ariana looked at her mother, a woman who had always cared more about society's approval than her daughter's happiness. No, I'm not sure, she admitted. But I've already been humiliated once. I won't let them finish me. Her mother didn't argue. She only sighed and went back inside. That night, Ariana moved into David's one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. The compound was quiet, with children playing nearby and women washing clothes under a street lamp. It was nothing like the estate she had grown up in. And yet, she felt strangely safe. David showed her around the tiny space. It's not much, he said, but it's honest. Ariana looked around. The living room was clean, though the furniture was mismatched. A single curtain separated the bedroom from the kitchen. There was no TV, just a small shelf with business files and old novels. It's fine, she said softly. Thank you for doing this. He smiled faintly. You needed help. I was available. But why? She asked. Why would you marry someone like me? Disgraced, mocked, and desperate. David looked at her then, more serious than ever. "Because I know what it means to be judged unfairly," he said. "People see my cane and assume weakness, but I'm not broken, and neither are you." His words settled in her chest like warm balm. They agreed to keep things respectful and simple. A marriage on paper only. They would sleep in the same room but different beds. No expectations, no complications, but neither of them could deny the strange peace that came from each other's presence. Days passed. At first, Ariana struggled. Gone were the drivers, the maids, the luxury. She had to learn to boil rice properly, to fetch water when the tap stopped running, to share space with a man who didn't hover but noticed everything. David, despite his limp, carried himself with strength. He cooked, he cleaned, he spoke gently, and every night before bed he'd ask, "Are you okay today?" One night, Ariana finally asked back, "Are you?" David smiled, "I am now." A week after the wedding, Ariana received a call from her late grandfather's lawyer. "Your grandfather's will included a clause," the lawyer explained. "Only a married granddaughter can inherit shares in the family business. We have received confirmation of your marriage, so the shares now belong to you." Ariana's heart nearly stopped. I have shares in Williams Group?" "Yes," the man replied. "Your stepfather didn't want you to know, but your grandfather protected you before he passed." The news shook her. When she told David, he didn't look surprised. "Your grandfather must have seen your strength," he said, "even if others didn't." Ariana finally smiled. "Then it's time they all do." That evening, she returned to the Williams estate, this time not as a disgraced daughter but a shareholder. She entered the living room calmly, where her stepfather and stepsister sat. "What are you doing here?" Felicia snapped. "I came to remind you," Ariana said, "that 32% of this company now belongs to me, and I intend to be involved." Her stepfather stood. "That's impossible." "Ask your lawyer," she said, handing over a sealed document. As he read through it, his face fell. "You think being married to some cripple gives you power?" Ariana's voice didn't shake. "I don't need power, I just need justice." And with that, she walked out. The morning air was crisp as Ariana stepped into the modest city office where she had requested a small desk. She refused to inherit shares and sit idly. If she was going to be part of Williams Group, she would learn the business. She would earn her place brick by brick. But even as she tried to focus, rumors swirled like wildfire. "Did you hear? She married a cripple just to get her grandfather's inheritance. She was dumped at the altar and ran into the arms of a beggar. What a fall! I give the marriage 3 months." Every whisper cut deep, but Ariana didn't flinch, not anymore. She had spent years being the perfect fiancée, the loyal daughter, the obedient stepchild. And where had it gotten her? Betrayal, humiliation, public disgrace. Now she would carve a path of her own. But while she faced fire in the office, David remained a quiet mystery at home. He left early, returned late, always with a faint smile and no explanation. He said he ran a logistics company, but Ariana never saw him answer business calls or attend meetings. One night, curiosity got the better of her. "David," she asked gently, "what do you actually do?" He looked up from the book in his hands. "Why do you ask?" "Because you're calm in chaos. You speak like someone who's led men. You notice every detail, and sometimes I catch you making phone calls in a language I don't recognize. You're not just a simple man. Who are you?" David smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Would you believe me if I said I'm just your husband?" "No," she whispered, "because you're more." He leaned back. "Let's just say I've spent years hiding in plain sight, watching, preparing. Not because I'm afraid, but because timing is everything." Before she could ask more, his phone rang. One look at the screen and he stood. "I have to go." "It's almost midnight," Ariana said. "Trouble doesn't keep a clock," he replied. And just like that, he was gone. The next day, chaos exploded at Williams Group. Ariana arrived to find the boardroom in disarray. Security reports, suspended contracts, angry clients. Someone had deliberately leaked confidential files that implicated her. Felicia stormed in, fire in her eyes. "You wanted to play CEO," she spat. "Now face the fire. You've cost us millions." "I didn't leak anything," Ariana protested. But the evidence pointed directly at her office terminal. "You're suspended until we verify everything," her stepfather announced, smug with victory. "Enjoy your shares from the parking lot." Shaken, Ariana returned home. David was in the kitchen, preparing pepper soup. She slumped into the chair and buried her face in her hands. "They're destroying me," she whispered. David didn't speak. He simply set a bowl before her, pulled up a chair, and sat quietly. After a long pause, he said, "Do you trust me?" "With what? With everything?" "Why?" "Because I've been waiting for the day you'd ask for help." He reached into his file cabinet and pulled out a thin laptop. Ariana watched, confused as he typed rapidly. "What are you doing?" "Exposing the truth." In under 10 minutes, he had accessed hidden surveillance footage from the Williams Group office. Footage that showed Felicia herself entering Ariana's office late at night, plugging in a flash drive. Ariana stared at the screen in shock. "How did you get this?" David finally looked her in the eye. "Because the company they tried to destroy is mine. I'm David A's CEO of Easy & Sons Logistics and silent partner in 3 firms your stepfather tried to ruin years ago." Her breath caught in her throat. "You... what?" "I knew your family. I knew how they moved. I knew what they did to your grandfather before he died. I was watching from the shadows, waiting. But then I saw you, the only one with a conscience. I didn't marry you out of pity, Ariana. I married you to protect you. And to finish what your grandfather started." Tears rolled down her face. "All this time, you were never just the man I met at the garden." "No," he said. "But I became the man who fell in love with you." Later that night, Ariana confronted Felicia in front of her father and the board. She played the footage on the conference room screen. Gasps filled the room. "That's not me!" Felicia shouted. "This is doctored." But David walked in, dressed in a tailored suit that commanded silence. "It's real," he said, "and the IT department has verified it." Everyone froze. "David," Ariana's father whispered. "Mr. Williams," David said coolly, "you once offered me a janitor's job in your warehouse." The room fell silent. I declined, not because it was beneath me, but because I had a better offer. Your daughter. The board voted to suspend Felicia and reinstated Ariana immediately, but the damage had been done. Her name was still being dragged in the press, and her reputation in tatters. That night, David came home to find Ariana in tears again. "Why does it still hurt?" she asked. "Even after proving myself, they still talk. They still doubt me." He knelt before her. "Because you care. Because you have a heart. But hearts aren't built for approval. They're built for truth. And yours beats louder than their lies." She leaned into his chest, letting the walls fall. "I'm tired of being strong." "Then rest," he whispered. "I'll be strong for both of us tonight." And for the first time in weeks, she let someone hold her without guilt or fear. Ariana stood before the mirror, her reflection pale, eyes hollow. The board had cleared her name. David had defended her. The truth had come out. And yet, something inside her still ached. Sometimes it wasn't the betrayal of the world that broke a woman. It was the betrayal of blood. No matter how many battles she won, the shame of being offered like a pawn in her family's power games lingered. Her stepfather, Chief Thomas, still refused to speak to her. Her stepmother, Felicia, now disgraced and confined to her room, spat curses every time Ariana's name was mentioned. The house where she once dreamt of love and laughter had become a prison of silence, and yet she stayed. Not for acceptance, but for justice. One evening, David walked into their living room to find Ariana on the floor, clutching her stomach, tears soaking her shirt. "Ariana." He dropped to his knees, panic rushing through his voice. "What's wrong?" I think I'm losing the baby," she cried. Those words shattered the air. They had only found out she was pregnant a week earlier. David had cried, cradling her gently like she was made of chinaware. Now, his face drained of color as he lifted her in his arms and rushed her to the hospital. The next hours passed in a haze of monitors, whispered prayers, and sterile smells. Finally, the doctor emerged. "She's stable," he said. "But the stress nearly cost the child. She needs complete rest and peace." David entered her hospital room silently. Ariana turned her head, her eyes swollen. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Maybe this is my punishment." He took her hand. "Don't ever say that again." "Then why does pain keep finding me?" she asked. "Why does it always feel like I'm fighting a war I didn't start?" David sat on the edge of the bed and brushed a loose strand of hair from her forehead. "Because the devil knows you're carrying greatness, and he's afraid." She broke into tears, and for the first time truly allowed herself to grieve, not just for the baby, but for every lie, every betrayal, every love that turned to ashes. While Ariana recovered, David began making silent moves behind the scenes. His patience had worn thin. He dug deeper into Chief Thomas's finances, and what he found shocked even him. The family business that had once flourished under Ariana's late grandfather had been slowly looted. The investments redirected, the assets pledged as collateral for secret debts, and worse, the very estate they lived in had been signed over to loan sharks. David confronted Chief Thomas in his office, alone. "How long were you planning to keep up the lie?" David asked, voice low. "You have no right to question me," Chief Thomas barked. "You endangered your daughter's future, your late father-in-law's legacy. For what? Gambling, politics, ego? You married her for her inheritance," he spat. David's eyes darkened. "Number I married her because while all of you saw a pawn, I saw a queen." And then he did the unthinkable. He dropped a folder on the table. "I've just acquired controlling shares of Williams Group. You no longer own the company." Chief Thomas looked like the ground had been pulled from under him. "What did you do?" "I cleaned the mess. I protected Ariana. I preserved the legacy your greed almost destroyed." "You'll regret this," the older man hissed. "No," David replied. "You will. When you realize she still would have forgiven you. If only you'd said sorry." Back at the hospital, Ariana slowly opened her eyes to find David watching her, his expression soft but tired. "You're safe now," he said. "What happened? I took care of it. You don't have to fight anymore." She turned to him. "That's not true," she whispered. "I'll always have to fight. Not for revenge, but for peace." "Then I'll fight beside you," he replied. "Every step." She sat up slowly, resting her head on his shoulder. "David?" "Yes?" "If I lose everything again, will you still stay?" He wrapped his arms around her tightly. "Even if we end up with nothing but a mat under a mango tree, I'll stay." Her tears came freely this time. But for the first time, they were not from pain. They were from healing. Back at the family estate, Felicia, now desperate, called an emergency meeting with an old friend. The woman arrived in a dark car, wearing sunglasses even at dusk. She walked in, kissed Felicia on the cheek and said, "Are you sure you want to go this far?" "If Ariana wants to destroy my life," Felicia hissed, "then I'll burn hers to the ground first." "What's the plan?" "We fake a scandal, claim the child isn't David's, leak intimate pictures from her past, make the world believe she's the real villain." "That's risky," the woman said, "and David's not someone you toy with." "I made her," Felicia snapped. "Now I'll unmake her." Outside the window, a quiet figure with a phone camera stepped back into the shadows. He had heard every word. And tomorrow, Ariana would know everything. The sun had not yet risen when Ariana opened her eyes. She hadn't slept deeply, not with the weight of the world pressing down on her chest, but something had shifted. Her heart no longer raced with fear. It beat now with quiet purpose. David stood by the window, his silhouette sharp against the faint morning glow. "You're awake," he said without turning. "I never really slept," she replied softly. He turned to her, his eyes tired but alert. "There's something you need to see." He handed her a phone. The video began to play. It was grainy but clear enough. Two voices, One of them, unmistakably her stepmother Felicia, was plotting her destruction, faking a scandal, discrediting her pregnancy, dismantling her character bit by bit. Ariana watched the screen in silence, her hand trembling. "They were going to ruin everything again," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But they won't," David said. "You're not the woman who let them break her the first time." She met his eyes. "No," she said, "I'm not." Later that day, Ariana walked into the family estate not with anger, but with dignity. Dressed in a simple but elegant Ankara dress, her baby bump just beginning to show, she held her head high. The housemaids stopped in their tracks. Even the security man bowed lower than usual. She stepped into the living room where Felicia and Chief Thomas were seated. "Good afternoon," she greeted, her voice calm but cold. They both stared at her, unsure whether to speak. "I came to tell you something," she continued, "and I suggest you listen closely." Felicia shifted uncomfortably. "You think just because you married a rich man, I don't need your permission to exist?" Ariana cut in. "Not anymore." She dropped a flash drive on the center table. "That contains the recording of your conversation with your friend, the one you hired to destroy me." Felicia paled. "You wouldn't dare. You dared first," Ariana said. "Now it's my turn." She turned to Chief Thomas. "You sold the company my grandfather built with his bare hands. You gambled away our name. And yet you still sat in this house judging me." "Ariana," he began, "you don't understand the pressure." "I understand greed," she said. "And I understand that the only reason this house still has light and food is because David took over everything, quietly." The room fell silent. "From now on," she said, "you will not contact me, you will not speak my name in shame, you will not spread lies. If you do, that recording will be sent to every media house in the city, and you both will lose the last ounce of dignity you're holding on to." Felicia lunged forward. "You ungrateful little—" But Ariana didn't flinch. David had entered behind her, and his presence froze the room like a sudden cold wind. "Touch her," he said quietly, "and I'll bury this family's reputation so deep your grandchildren will be born apologizing." Chief Thomas sank into the couch like a deflated balloon. Felicia's lips trembled, but she said nothing. Ariana took David's hand. "We're done here," she said. The next few weeks moved like a gentle storm. David officially restructured the company, putting Ariana at the helm. Employees who had once mocked her now stood when she entered. Those who had leaked the fake scandals were dismissed. Respect had returned, not just for her name, but for her story. Ariana didn't come in with revenge. She came in with results, but just as peace was beginning to settle, another storm gathered. One morning, Ariana received a letter in the mail. It was unsigned, written in neat cursive. "You thought it was over, but blood never forgets. Watch your back. Kishikiuel." David found her reading it with shaking hands. "What's wrong?" he asked. She handed him the note. He read it, eyes narrowing. "QL? Sun Brown?" She nodded. "But she disappeared. After the scandal, no one's heard from her." "Then someone's helping her from the shadows," Ariana whispered. "It doesn't matter," David said. "We'll end it before it begins." Days later, the headlines hit the media. Billionaire's wife accused of fake pregnancy scam, claims baby not her husband's. The photos were digitally altered, but they spread like wildfire. Online trolls, gossip blogs, even corporate partners began to murmur. Reporters swarmed the gate of their estate. Commenters dragged Ariana's name like it was old dirt. Ariana watched the news and said nothing. David turned off the TV and knelt before her. "I'm so sorry," he said. "No," she said. "This is the final battle and I won't run this time." The next morning, Ariana held a press conference. She stood at the podium, the city skyline behind her, cameras flashing. "My name is Ariana Williams. I've been lied about, framed, and nearly destroyed by those I once called family, but I survived." She paused. "This pregnancy is real, this marriage is real, and anyone who doubts it can meet me in court." She pulled out medical reports, DNA test confirmations, and surveillance videos showing Sean Brown handing off the forged documents. The reporters went silent. One by one, they began clapping. Back at home, Ariana curled into David's chest. "Are we finally free?" she whispered. He kissed her forehead. "Almost." She closed her eyes. And for the first time in a long time, she believed him. The sky over the city was quiet the next morning. No headlines, no flashing lights, no chaos. Just soft light pouring through Ariana's bedroom window as she sat before her vanity mirror, brushing her hair slowly. She wasn't preparing for war anymore, she was preparing to live. Behind her, David stood quietly, watching her through the reflection. "You look calm," he said. "For once," she smiled faintly. "I feel like I can breathe." "You deserve to," he said, "but there's one more thing you should know." He handed her a thin brown envelope. Ariana's hands hesitated, then opened it. Inside were pages from a private investigation, bank transfers, voice recordings, a list of names. "These are the people Seun Brown worked with, including the doctor who forged the pregnancy reports, and—" David hesitated. "Chief Thomas." Ariana looked up at him, her chest tightening. "My stepfather was part of it. He funded it, but not for Seun Brown, for himself. He hoped you'd collapse under the scandal so he could claim guardianship of your child and regain access to the inheritance through your baby." Ariana's hand flew to her stomach. "My child was just a pawn to them." David sat beside her. "But not to us." She nodded slowly, her eyes misting over. That afternoon they called a family meeting, not out of tradition, but to end a cycle. Chief Thomas, Felicia, and the lawyer sat in tense silence in the family estate sitting room as Ariana entered with David. Her shoulders were squared. She didn't come as a daughter. She came as a woman with power. "This family," she began, "has used me, lied to me, sold me out, but you will never touch me or my child again." Felicia rolled her eyes. "So what now? You want an apology?" Ariana smiled bitterly. "Number, I want distance." She placed legal documents on the center table. "These are permanent restraining orders. You will never approach me, my home, my office, or my child. Ever." Chief Thomas scoffed. "You can't erase blood." "But I can protect it," David interrupted, stepping forward. "And I will." Ariana looked at her stepfather for the last time. "Your shame is your own now," she said quietly. "I won't carry it anymore." She turned and walked away without another word. Weeks passed. The city learned to say her name with respect. Ariana Williams was no longer just the girl from a disgraced family. She was the CEO who stood firm, the woman who exposed corruption, and the wife of a man who turned out to be far more than anyone imagined. David eventually stepped down as president of his conglomerate and chose to invest in Ariana's vision. A foundation for single mothers and abused women, a place for others to rebuild, like she did. One morning, Ariana stood on the rooftop of their building, wind blowing through her hair, hands resting gently on her round belly. "Do you think the baby will have your eyes?" she asked David. "I hope so," he smiled. "But your strength." She looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time saw not just the man who had saved her, but the one who had believed in her when she couldn't even believe in herself. On a quiet evening, under the soft lights of their garden, David knelt before her, not with a ring this time, but with a letter. "What's this?" she asked, laughing. "A promise," he said. She unfolded it. Inside were simple words written in his own handwriting. "No secrets, no lies, just us, forever." Her tears came before the smile. "You didn't have to kneel," she whispered. "Yes, I did," he said, "because I want to be the man who never stops choosing you." She pulled him into her arms, her heart finally full. As they held each other under the stars, a soft wind danced around them. No scandal, no betrayal, no fear, just the sound of her heartbeat and the life growing within her, steady, strong and new. The story of Ariana Williams didn't end in shame. It began with it, but rose above it, because some names are not meant to be erased, they are meant to be reclaimed. The end. Sometimes the deepest betrayals birth the greatest strength, and when love is patient, strategic and kind, it can rebuild